I let that dry overnight, and then I primed it black, and then hit it with some gray, and then did a white zenithal highlight. And now we're going to let that firm up a little bit. That paint's a little bit tacky still, and then we will set about adding the things that we wanted to add. We'll do a little weathering. We're going to add some pipes. The top isn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. I wish instead of doing the paper and Mod Podge, I had done the spackle and then smoothed all that out and made that one sort of homogeneous piece with the spackle, but that's fine. We know for next time. This technique doesn't work so hot. So I'm still going to put things on top of it to kind of hide that a little bit, but that's not a problem either because it just makes your building look that much more interesting. So we'll get the things gathered and we will continue. All right, so we're going to add some piping, and what I'm going to do is I've primed that black, and then I'm going to hit it with a mix of black and silver, and we'll make kind of a very, very dark, almost gunmetal color, just to give the impression that, hey, that's a big piece of iron pipe coming out of there. And then we'll hit it with some rusting, and that'll be good. Alright, so just, I don't think it really shows up great on camera, but it's got just enough of a metallic flavor to it that it's kind of sells the idea that that's a pipe. Maybe I could hold it up where you could see it. Wouldn't that be great? Adjust my horrible lighting. And we'll add that. So we'll continue on and do those and get them ready to hot glue in place. So that was a little dark. I went back and hit it with a mix of 2-to-1 silver to black. And that lightened it up just enough to give that metallic sheen. So we're going to run with that. So we're going to hot glue that in place, and we will get ready to do some weathering. Also, this I'm going to do that same treatment to the HVAC system. This is a 3D print I got off of Thingiverse. I'll try and find the link and put it in the description in case you have a 3D printer. This is totally optional, just something of interest to put on the top. I made a little junction box and a conduit and glued it on there. So we'll get that ready and we'll get that in place too. Alright, so we are going to, I'm going to put blue because that's sort of the color that's tying all of this together. We're going to very carefully cut that in on our doors. And then we'll weather the doors as we weather the building. And neatness counts here, so just take your time and try not to slop it over onto the walls. If you do, it's not the end of the world. You can fix it, but better if you don't do it at all. Alright, so we'll continue on with that. So we've got our doors painted, front and back, and we just took some of that Blue Craft paint, thinned it out a little bit with some water, put that on there. It's a little bit translucent, so if that kind of dark gray shows through, that's fine. It's a metal door. So we will get ready to weather this with some washes. First, I'm just going to use some pre-mixed, it's a large bottle of Magic Wash that I did. It's just 50-50 water and Future floor polish, and then just add some paint. So we will give that a start. And you can add more paint to this if it's not rich enough, not dark enough. So let's see what we get here. Oh yeah, no, I think that's going to be pretty good. It'll dry a little bit lighter. But we're just going to apply that all over the entire building. All right, so we'll continue on with that. All right, when you go back and apply some more black wash for extra weathering, if it starts to really pool up, just knock it back a little bit with a sponge, and that leaves you a dark patch without being too dark. It also makes the shape a little more, let me fix my lighting again, a little more irregular, sort of more organic. And then you can put a large dollop on there, and then just take your smaller brush, and then just, you can have your drips coming down from 200 years of schmutz being on these buildings. And you can use black, you can use dark brown, you can use a combination. It depends on what your setting is and what the locale is like that the building's supposed to be in. This is kind of generic. You sort of can't go wrong. You could plunk this down almost anywhere and it would look okay. But you could definitely get a lot more specific. So we'll continue on. Just to sort of break up the overall sort of monotone of the building, along that bottom edge I just added some burnt umber, kind of dirt that's collected there and whatnot. We'll put a few tufts in there too. That'll help give that abandoned look. In the meantime, let's put some rusting on these pipes. We're going to start with burnt umber, and then we're going to add some nutmeg and probably some raw sienna. We're just going to do that with a sponge. And it's going to be kind of irregular, and it'll look pretty good. Alright, so there's our burnt umber. A little nutmeg. And you can kind of wet blend these. That's fine. I find that rust looks much more convincing if you build it up in layers, and especially if you stipple it or do it with a sponge, it gives it a texture. It gives it that really rusty look. It's a good technique to practice. If you get to the point where you can do something and it looks like you might need a tetanus shot if you touch it, then you've done it perfectly. I have not attained that status yet, but always working on it. One thing to remember too is that rust, the older it is, the darker it is generally. So the lighter you go is the fresher that the rust will be generally. It depends on the material, but as a hard and fast rule, that's a pretty good one to go with. And I will probably touch that up a bit because it's a little too monotone. Go back and blend in some darker colors, so that looks a little too fresh. Granted, that will dry a little darker, but you still don't want it to look too new. Alright, so we will continue on. I'm going to stipple some down along the edges, and we'll stain the concrete a little bit, like maybe there's been some leaks there. So we'll continue on with that. I did basically the same technique to the HVAC system on top. I just kind of mixed three of those colors and stippled them on and then knocked them back with a sponge. Now that we've added the rust effects, I stained it a little bit, so maybe there's some leakage there. Also did some washing and some rusting on the doors. So we will, oh, and also the HVAC system, a little bit there. So I think I'm gonna leave those bits as they are. I'm going to go back and paint some of the details, our door handle, the crane part, and we may add something else, but I think overall this is probably good. Probably put some markings on this, so we'll continue on with that. And now that all of our weathering is done, we added some stippling along the bottom, just some tan to kind of dirty up the base of the building. We added a ladder on the back, and you could easily add a lot more junction boxes, wires, pipes, whatever. It certainly does need some signage, so that'll probably be added later. But I think overall it's not bad. We learned a bit. I learned what not to do for the next one. So this material is interesting to work with and gives a pretty good result. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.